Hello.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
Hi. So how you doing?
Good. There's still lockdown, so pretty bored. Uh,
Yeah. So we're both in Bermuda, locked down. And what do you do for a living? Are you able to keep up or how's it going?
I do personal training. I've been able to keep up so far with the use of Zoom. That's what we're using right now. Uh, that's about it. Host my classes still on Zoom by Alchemy. The class is still going fairly strong. I think a lot of people like the social aspect part of it. So that's why maybe we've lost a few people with the Zoom classes, but still going strong, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it. It means a lot.
Thanks for
Um,
the invite. Mm.
yeah. So you grew up in a domestically violent home. Can you share your story with us?
Uh, yeah, from what I can remember, it wasn't always violent, or maybe I couldn't see what was happening behind closed doors. I was pretty young, maybe 3 or 4. The only incident I can remember kind of shaped me going through primary, middle school, high school, even through college. I only started to be aware of it when I was 25, when everything started to kind of switch and I had to face those fears. One night, my mom was trying to tuck me in, still a bit of a blare, and my dad was just really loud. He kind of dragged out the room, and the door slammed. So now every time I hear a slam door, it kind of not triggers, but kind of takes me back to that time very briefly. And that's kind of heard screaming, well, not screaming, like arguing, shouting. And I started hearing a thump, so I just walked out. And looked like my dad just had my mom against the wall, just choking her. You see, like her eyes again, kind of like blood red. So I tried to intervene, and I kind of got hit into the couch. I guess he was just in blind rage of whatever. I know what happened. Like 15 years later, I figured out what caused it. Um, so I tried to stop him. Hey, Dad, it's really pretty much a blur, but I just know that they ended up tumbling onto the floor, and he was on top of her, and you could see like her eyes about to, well, like her eyes about to pop out of her head. And eventually he just let go. But a few times I got hit into the couch or the floor. My mom got banged into the wall because she was in the corner before she eventually got to the floor. I think he stopped after a few of my cries and pleas, and then my mom just took us right out. I think we had family staying like connected to a house in St. David's. Um, and all I remember from there is just police sirens, not the actual siren, just the lights flashing on top of the car in a big jacket. And I think from there on until maybe primary school, I blocked it out. So I kind of didn't remember about it after that day. Even now, it's pretty much a blur. Um,
Mm,
that's I call it the incident.
yeah. Was that the last time you lived with your father?
He actually got kicked out of Bermuda um, after that incident. It took a little while, and he remarried or something when I was, yeah, right in middle school. And he was able to come back to the island because obviously he was married to a Bermudian. And I think at that time I had a little brother. He had another child, and his little brother at that time. So my mom would never let me stay over with him. She would, took a lot of effort just for her to let me see him.
Mm,
And every time they saw each other, they would just argue, curse, and well, she would. He would kind of back away and just walk off. Another time, I had to call the police because my mom was threatening to call the police. My dad had me a little too longer than it should. So it's kind of bad growing up in middle school.
you said it years later that you pieced together what happened that night. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, I remember one day in primary school, everyone was being asked about like their dad, this and that. I think it was Father's Day, something like that. Had to write cards, whatnot. And the teacher was like, "Hey, Jeron, are you gonna write anything or do anything for your father?" And I was like, "I don't have a dad." And everyone's like, "Well, you can't be born without having a dad." I was like, "Literally, I don't have a dad. I don't know anything about him." Blah blah blah. And it was like, "Well, it's impossible." And I kind of got upset and defensive, like, "Well, I don't have a dad. After you guys this." And when I went home, I was kind of thinking about it. I was like, well, they're right where I can not have a dad to be born. So I asked my mom about it, and so when I started to have flashes of, I don't remember the whole incident entirely. It's all flashes like bedroom, drag, door slam, couch, um, the lights of the sirens. I don't really remember too much. But she didn't explain anything about what actually happened. I don't think I wanted to know. She just said, there, that's why your dad, you do have a dad. He lives in Jamaica, and he probably won't be back. Surprise, surprise, he came back a year later.
Mm, okay. Do you remember what happened? Did you ever find out if this was something that was frequent for your mom?
Um, as I got older, my mom kind of compared me to him. She was saying that you're just like your father. My mom has chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia, so her house kind of deteriorated as we was in middle school and high school. She couldn't work, so we kind of grew up on financial assistance. And when my father came, he had to pay child support, which he didn't for a long period. Which, if you don't know about financial assistance and you have child support, they take a portion of what he's supposed to pay. So when he didn't pay it, we kind of got. I was actually defending my dad to my mom for the longest time because I forgot the incident. It's like he's a nice guy. I want to get to know him. Everyone else has both, and it's just like, well, he's going to disappoint you, blah blah blah. And yeah, he started to disappoint me. Um, I just asked her one day like what actually happened, and she kept comparing me to him. So I wanted to see if I was really like him. I was only like 13, 14 at the time. Maybe even older.
In a positive light, she was comparing, or no?
No,
What was
definitely
she
not.
saying? What were the comparisons?
I I was very to myself, and I was very snappy when I was younger. I could get I could shout if I'm pushed. I was quiet going through high schools. All my schools, everyone you guys, everyone was fairly quiet to myself. I didn't understand why. Maybe I was just introverted, but I had triggers, and I didn't understand my triggers again until I got into like maybe adulthood at 25. And my mom, being in the situation she was, even now, she kind of blames the whole world for what's happened to her. It's very hard to be around that mindset. Um, I kind of wanted to be a normal kid, and she wanted a caretaker. She kept saying, "You're gonna end up leaving me and never coming back." A lot of downplaying herself, and if a lot of times the argument started when I want to do something. I want to go play basketball. I found Muay Thai eventually, and I wanted to do that every night. It seemed like every time I tried to do something for myself, she would compare me to my dad. Or if I started to shout back, she probably shouldn't have shouted back, but I didn't understand why I was getting so hyped up, and that's probably the comparison she was making with my dad getting hyped up, probably from that incident. Um, I call it the incident for reference
Yeah.
point if anyone's listening.
So when that after that the incident happened, did you said you had family who literally lived next door. Did you live with them afterwards with your mom?
Um, I, so next door is my uncle, granny, and auntie. I I was very young, but those three were the closest growing up. Probably my only family I actually would consider family, next to my mom. Uh, they moved to they sold the house that we were staying in, and they moved to Florida. Pretty cool. I got to go to Disney World almost every summer at a young age because they lived in Florida. It was just my mom and I for probably my whole life until I got into middle school. Sorry, until I left for college. Um, so they weren't around as much unless I traveled out to them or she traveled out to them.
Yeah. So that must have been hard though, because your dad left, but you weren't really aware of why. And then your closest family moved away as well. And it sounds like your mom potentially wasn't the most positive person to be around.
She used to be. She used to be very kind-hearted, open-minded. What's the word I can look for? Optimistic. For
Mm.
a long time, he didn't know. I didn't know that she had chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, or that she was dealing with uh, someone that says love you can treat you that way. in such a violent manner. She never really showed it until her illnesses started to kick in, like overdrive, when I was in high school, and everything started to get, just started to break down. And you can see her mindset and its health just deteriorate. So I got to watch her change from being so strong to, the whole world. So it's their fault. Like the victim is
Mm,
always the victim. It's really
yeah.
hard to, as a kid or a teen, you don't know how to address that because you don't know what anything is.
Yeah.
Not excuse, but
No, but that's definitely hard to be around. Did your mom ever tell you of any other incidences that happened with your dad?
um, she told me what caused the incident, that he was always out late, came home late. I'm pretty sure he drank a lot. I
Mm,
think he had the old school, from how she explained it, he had the old school mindset of the husband takes care of all the bills and the woman, the lady, the wife stays home, cleans, and basically just listens to the man, like very controlling. It sounded like he was. And I think I have taken a little bit of that unknowingly into my future relationships.
mm,
Um, you know, but I think he was just very old school mindset, and he just was coming home late, doing every wanted. So what set off the incident was my mom tried to get him back, which is not smart when I think about it now. She took us to, I think, Grotto Bay for the night without telling him.
when you say get him back, you mean get even,
She
not.
wanted to make him feel what she felt like. If you're out all night and I don't know where you are, not like they had cell phones back then where you could just WhatsApp text,
Yeah,
whatever. I guess you'll come home the next day.
yeah.
Um, Obviously, I'm unaware because I'm still very like an infant.
Mm.
It's infant 3, 4, very young. Still can't remember much. And she took us to the Grotto Bay for the whole night and the whole day, and came back, and that's when the eruption must have happened. Said that she was cheating, this and that. And more than likely, he cheated multiple times. It sounds like she never really got into detail, nor did I ask too much. I kind of got the hint uh, when she
Yeah,
was doing it.
yeah. So she took you to a hotel for the night. He came home, didn't find you guys.
Kept
Was
looking for us. Yeah.
was looking for you, and then
Well, yeah.
when you came home, he brutally beat your mother, and it sounds like he tried to kill her, you said?
Yeah, my mom once said probably if I wasn't there, she may have not have made it. Um,
Wow.
she I she says that my dad really loves me and do everything for me, and that's why he stopped. But it's really hard to forgive someone like that, or even understand their type of love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think there was, you said that it was he would go out and have a drink. Do you think that these altercations only happened perhaps when he was drinking?
Quite possible. He seems like he was a player.
Mm.
Um, just growing up, a few times people would say, "Oh, you look just like your dad." Oh, give him that side eye, like what? I don't even know what my dad looks like. Oh, you look just like him. Spit an image. And I kind of didn't like that because I didn't like
Mm.
the idea of my dad or being compared to him. I can only assume that he was cheating from the stories. I never got a chance to talk to him
Mm.
because I didn't want to.
Yeah.
Another incident.
Yeah. So with potentially, so potentially you think he was drinking that night and that could have been a problem before. Do you think that your mother, you said perhaps he saw her as someone who needed to be dependent on her, and it sounds like she was. Do you think it was hard for her financially to leave him?
No, because growing up, she provided nearly everything until my algae kind of teenage years kind of kicked in where she couldn't work at all.
Mm.
We never really worried about much. I always got, it's kind of weird, like we started really good Christmas, never had to worry about stuff, and then slowly you leave the nice apartment or house to a rundown one, can't even, everyone else around you's got cable watching Dragon Ball Z, and I gotta listen to the stories because I can't watch
Mm.
Dragon the newest episode. Um, and you kind of start on a high and start to fall, and completely out of your control. But I'm pretty sure she did the best she could. I
Yeah.
mean, she never showed it until high school, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you said he remarried and came back to Bermuda? Did that scare your mom?
It's kind of ironic because after I guess divorce with the new woman, they actually got along, my mom and I guess they connected through. I guess he didn't change, so the stories are kind of similar, like very controlling and
Mm.
whatnot. I'm not sure she was ever scared of her, but I'm pretty sure like she got irate when she saw him. Like he would have to when I wanted to go see him, had to be far away. I remember one time one of my friends knocked on my door and was like, "Hey, can you come outside? This guy wants to talk to you." I was like, "No." He's like, "Oh," he keeps asking to come out, and my dad. And I was like, "Oh, what are you doing on the island?" Basically,
Mm.
I didn't even know what he looked like. I was like, "This guy looks familiar. Like he seems familiar."
Yeah.
Like, and he's like
The last
Jeron.
time you saw him was at the incident when you were 3 or 4.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like little pictures. We have pictures at the house. He looked completely. He had gray long hair. Well, he's got curly hair like me, but I guess it could straighten. But in the pictures, it was very Jericho. Must have been the style,
Yeah.
uh, the older generation. And we started talking. Not even for like 5 minutes. My mom came out and completely shouted. The whole neighborhood's looking at us, and I didn't understand what was going on. I was like, "Why am I getting in trouble for?" He wanted to talk to me. I think she was more scared of him
Mm.
or what he could do to me because I had him on a pedestal for a bit. We kind of connected while we was getting to know until he started to show, not paying child support, missed my graduation. Uh, he was paying the child support in Jamaica. That kind of hit me pretty hard.
Because
But
he has
then
other kids, so he was paying their child support in Jamaica, right?
at the time, it was just one kid,
Okay.
younger brother. So I was maybe going 13 or 14,
Okay.
and he was a baby. Now it's two more sisters, I believe. Last time I spoke to
Okay.
him, that was a long time ago.
That must have hurt. He wasn't paying your support, supporting your family, and he was someone else's.
I always had a job since maybe 12 or 13. Started packing groceries, so yeah, it didn't hurt that he wasn't like I didn't care for money. I've never really cared for money, but it just kind of shows you that I'm not. Um, I'm not a priority. And I was like, you know what? I don't care. You're going to be a priority. I'm growing enough. I'll make my own money. It's not much because you're packing groceries, but it's a lot for my age group. And my mom didn't work, so the only way for me to get something was to work.
Mm.
And that's the cycle of. That's when the cycle started, where I'm always working, distracting myself. I always have to work. Basically, come home, go back and do something else. It was never a moment to stop.
Yeah. And you said there were other things that showed his true colors with your relationship. Would you share what those were?
Yeah, he was late a lot. Uh, he for some reason he didn't come to my middle school graduation. My mom didn't go because she was sick. So basically, no one in the crowd for me. It's that had close friends whose moms and dads who kind of grew up in the same neighborhood. They always like congrats, but you know I understood my mom's part. But I could see how tiring it was, and also we weren't getting along as much due to the my dad being there. Um, so it was stuff like that. When we hung out, it was never really bad. Like we would talk. It's really hard to remember now, but I never felt in a bad spot. I felt like we got along pretty good. But it's just like his actions kind of show, like not like he would cancel rather than me not wanting to see him. A lot of trips to Jamaica when he should be paying child support and he can't afford it. This is all from my mom telling me because I was kind of kept away from I guess, the court hearings and
Mm.
whatnot. And the only time he actually paid was when he had to go to court. But you hear from his wife that's going back to Jamaica a lot. I thought that was kind of strange.
Yeah.
He
So,
shouldn't even in burrito.
yeah. So, from like the research that I've done, apparently the way like trauma manifests itself is there's like 3 traumatic stress reactions from witnessing domestic abuse. And I was wondering if I could read these out to you and you could tell me if any of them sound familiar.
Sure. Yeah.
So, number one is re experiencing. So, what that means is you're having intrusive thoughts, for example, doors slamming, that bring you right back to the moment. Sensations, perhaps where your body was hurt if someone pushed you when it's not actually there. Um, so, that's one. Uh, Two is avoidance. So, avoiding reminders of trauma. So, withdrawing from normal activities. And then three is called hyperarousal. So it's fearful, nervous, and jumpy. Do any of those resonate?
Yeah. All through high school, I was middle and end of middle school, and all through high school and most of college, I was very introverted. I was like social anxiety to the yin yang. Like I would freak out just having to go to school. I would avoid getting on the main school bus. I'll get up super early and catch like the normal bus. Just very terrified of being in public. Um, a lot of intrusive thoughts. And like I said, I found basketball, I found martial arts, I found Muay Thai, and I also worked maybe one or two jobs. So I was never around. If everyone ever wanted to ask, "Hey, you want to go and just hang out?" It's like, no, I'm busy. Just never wanted to be present with anyone. Just always going for the next thing, next
Hmm.
thing, next thing. I had one friend. He's passed away now. I think he kind of got it. He
Hmm.
kind of just randomly showed up like on a bad day and just kind of just gently say like, "Oh, I miss hanging with you." Because I pulled away from everyone in high school. It literally like all the friends I made in middle school, I was just distracted. Like everyone hang out, and I was just here in my own little world. And he would come around and just kind of make me feel better. And he never asked though. You just that friend that kind of looked out for you, and then he was on his way. Sadly, he's passed away now, but yeah, he's that one. Yeah.
Wow. That must have been really hard to lose someone who you felt understood you.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he understood me, but I guess guys don't like to talk.
Hmm.
Obviously, I don't want to stereotype, but don't like to talk with the feelings. But I guess he was pretty aware of how people are around. End of high school, I started to figure out what was going on with me. So I started to open up to a few people, not about my traumatic experiences, but I just started to make certain friends that kind of felt like they had similar, not experience, but were kind of like the same. Not really into big crowds or popularity, um, stuff like
Yeah.
that.
So you said you pulled away between middle school and high school, but this event happened when you were 3 or 4. So what do you think triggered that?
When my dad came back in middle school, and then he didn't show up for graduation.
Mm.
Um, I also got teased about certain things in high school. Uh, so it kind of made me, on top of my dad leaving, it kind of just withdrew me. Just didn't want anyone to know who I was. Basically, just silent, ghost. Scared to be seen. And anytime I confronted being scared to be seen is when I started competing in the ring. Because I found Muay Thai. Well, actually, I had a very good friend named Scott. Maybe you hadn't remember hearing this. Haven't seen him in a long time. I really love comic books and martial arts, Ninja Turtles, and he was always been in these martial arts tournaments. So I was like, "Hey, what do you do?" He's like, "Oh, I do Goju-Ryu." So, "Oh, I want to try that." And did Goju-Ryu in basketball, but secretly did Goju-Ryu. I tried to join the basketball team in an attempt to make friends. Kind of worked.
Yeah. Wow. So that hit your father not showing up to your graduation really had an impact on you.
Well, then he got kicked out the island because for a second time because the new wife divorced him. I
Yeah.
mean, he wants a guy who's always going back to Jamaica,
Yeah.
any
And how,
chance he gets, right? Obviously, he has a kid there, but I think he was still kind of with the child's mother. Guessing I'm assuming. It felt like he was using the new wife just to make money in Bermuda, obviously to see me. Um, Saying he was still in love with my mom. That's the type of stuff he used to tell me. You
Mm.
know, kind of get the idea that they'll get back together. Then you run it by your mom, and she really blitzes on the idea.
So he was trying to get back with her.
No, no, he never tried to get back at her. He said he still loves her,
Okay.
um,
Yeah.
and wish that we could be a family. No, that jive.
Yeah. So I've also read that young children who witness domestic violence worry about like their caregivers. So in this case, it was your mom when you were 3 or 4, and are afraid to be separated from them. So during that time, did you ever feel that?
Yeah, I was always with my mom. I was attached to her hip until, I mean, she wouldn't let me ride my bike on the road. She was very overprotective of me. I
Mm,
mean, I was the same way. I was always with her. Like, didn't see my mom. Like, the whole world is not working. So we were both attached at the hip until obviously middle school is when I turned into myself
yeah.
uh, completely.
And how's your relationship with her now?
Sadly, we don't speak right now. I don't know how to come. I don't know how to approach her about her blitzing, and I can't handle that right now with my how my life is happening.
What does
Uh,
blitzing mean?
I guess blitzing's my own way of like we can't hold a conversation where she starts to attack or she compares, like I said, compares to my father.
Mm,
'Cause I honestly believe I'm nothing like him, um, especially how I carry myself. I got a pretty good reputation on the island. Quite, I hope I do.
yeah, you do.
Yeah, so when she keeps comparing, and I'm not the best mentally. I'm better than I was at because I've been working on it since maybe 25, 26.
Yeah.
I just can't handle it. I don't know how to approach her, and I don't think in any way I can because a lot of other family members don't want to approach her.
Mm,
Not the close ones, because my granny and auntie have passed away. They passed away like back to back when I was like 24, 25.
ooh, yeah.
It's my first mental breakdown at 24 when they passed back to back. Um, that was like the last, that small unit that we had, small
Yeah,
family unit. Yeah.
that was it for you. So everyone from that unit you has either passed away or you don't have contact with.
I still talk to my uncle sparingly. I just think with my uncle, for me at least, I'm just moved on with my life.
Mm.
My friends and family, or mainly friends, tend to move away from each other, not as close. But I talk to them to get advice about my mom, about a situation that happened last year. It caused me to pull back completely. And my girlfriend at the time was always asking, like, why don't you meet my mom? I said, why can't I meet your mom? And it's like, well, I don't want to introduce you to that environment. Like, it's not like last year, COVID started to strike, so she needed some help. And we tried to help her, and she kind of understood why I didn't want to approach her of how she comes at stuff, which I was taking as was my fault.
So during COVID, you two had some problems, you and your girlfriend, and she said, "Oh, is this the environment that you didn't want to introduce me to? The one we're recreating right here."
Yeah, because she's very, my mom, she's very like, I need help, but I'm not going to take the help.
Mm,
And if you don't do it, you're the bad guy completely. I don't understand how to come at it. So it's like, for example, she needs water, because she can't really move around like bottles of water. I'm like, okay, I can't do it right now, but I can do it later tonight. I'm literally working. She won't answer back or call. I won't get a text back to say you never want to do anything for me. That's the whole thing I got the whole life that you never want to do anything for me. And it's like, I have a job. I can't just leave my job whenever
mm,
you say, but I can get it, and I'm available. Um, and
mm.
stuff like that, that kind of like, you don't need that, especially when you're already battling your own mental images and I'm trying to kind of recovering from that, like a few mental breakdowns from 25 and 30. So having that and being compared to a father I don't even know is it's kind of hard to be around.
That's painful too, because she's only said, some pretty horrible things. And
I said some stuff in retaliation, or maybe even beforehand. Like it's not been the best relationship
yeah.
after college. Um, I'm at fault with a lot of the stuff, but I don't know how. I wish I knew how. I had a therapist who was helping me uh, to confront certain things, like write letters, talk to her. I was like, hey, you don't want to talk to her about this stuff. It's gonna like she's right about everything. Like I don't think a therapist can help how far her mind's gone.
Mm.
He also suggested going to Jamaica and meeting my whole family as a way to move on, and I kind of don't want to see any of them.
Your therapist says you should go meet everyone.
He said that'll be a good way. It's like your brother and sisters have done nothing to you.
Yeah.
You should, you know, give them a chance. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That must be so hard. And I think, sometimes you can love someone and know they're not like good for you. Sometimes you need to get like put your own mask on, as they say, to breathe before you can help someone else. So maybe you just need time to get grounded yourself.
Family doesn't mean blood relations. Family could be people that you choose, people who actually are there for you, genuinely there for you.
Yeah.
Sometimes your family, that's blood, just not their fault. They grew up with faults and maybe they didn't confront them, but if they're not healthy for you and your mindset, you just gotta, I'm not saying completely disappear from their life, but you just distance yourself from them for your own sake.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. So one thing I'd noticed, you said your mom says you're like just like your father. So, you know, I've read that people who have witnessed domestic abuse are at higher risk of potentially learning those behaviors and kind of repeating them in intimate relationships. So, for example, um, and this might not be true, but using domestic violence to control another person, to end an argument, or to release stress. Have you experienced any of this? And what steps are you taking to make sure that that cycle is not repeated?
yes, it's happened in my previous relationship. It got a bit more carried away than it should have. I had, I had to learn why I got triggered. I was reading a book called by Mark Manson, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, which he brought up something called the feedback loop, where you think of something and it keeps cycling, 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 cycling. And most of my life, I would cycle. I would get caught in my own feedback loop. And that book, I probably the first time I actually read a book and started taking notes, I really it's like look at yourself in the mirror and you punch the mirror and it shatters in pieces because you just don't like what you see, what you feel, and then you have to kind of slowly repiece it back together. And I felt like that's what that book was like. When the incident happened in the relationship, I immediately went to my therapist and started talking about. I started opening up more and more about like my family and this and that. And I have another coach named Arjan Bach. He did online like life coaching. So between these individuals, I started to, and Mark Manson, hope he ever hears this podcast, I started to figure out what triggers me. And there's a few things that kept popping up, especially with Buck, is that your parents unintentionally give you their scars. It's not their fault, it's not your fault, but you don't have to be that. It's your choice to get up and move on and experience it like that you want to have and back away. So since then, I just found out what my triggers are. I've learned, I really try not to get lost in the feedback loop. And it's been working ever since. I'm a
So
lot more.
what are those triggers?
It's very very hard to say. Like I get very defensive about certain things that could make myself most likely insecure from being introverted my whole life. So a lot of times going out, maybe just another guy talking to her would trigger me. It's nothing to do with her. I had to tell her that a lot of the stuff is nothing to do with you. It's a lot of my triggers. But a lot of times what I don't like is.
Wait, sorry, would you go back to that? I didn't understand. So when you're out on a night out, it be triggered by someone speaking to her?
Yeah, well, I thought they may be flirting with her.
Mm.
That's just one trigger. That's probably the most relatable one I can kind of muster into words right now. And a lot of
Relatable to others or to your father?
other people,
Okay.
and yeah, most likely my father. Yeah, probably a big one right there. But a lot of triggers was I feel like people can not attack quiet people, like
Mhm.
verbally assault you, and because you come off calm and you don't really want to react back, and a lot of triggers is bullies, you know, a lot of triggers. Um, and I had a really toxic work environment in my previous job, which I was completely stuck in the feedback loop. I went to work so tense every day, and from there on, certain triggers kind of spilled over. You have to learn to recognize it because the individual in front of you is not doing it on purpose, and in my head, they are doing it on purpose. You
And
know,
would those triggers lead to a violent like outbreak on for you, like an aggressive,
so
verbally?
sometimes I'll take it, and the more you take it, it builds up into a bigger explosion. It could turn into the most has gotten a bit physical, but it's mostly shouting, cursing. And once you learn your triggers and when you get out of that feedback loop, I have control. Since I've been on the journey since 30, I haven't really lost it yet. Hopefully, I'm only 31, so 32. But I've really been trying my best to be calmer and do something different, not just be busy at work. A lot of things that helped me was fighting in the ring. That really helped me. So I was so scared to be seen, and I had social anxiety to the yin yang. So to walk in the ring where all eyes on just me and this guy who wants to knock my head off my shoulders, um, I started to get a bit not confident. I started to relax more. Since 30, I've been trying to be like that. I think it kind of reflects on my job as well. Because my job, you got to be able to relate to people, at least be able to talk to people. When you got social anxiety, you just thinking of talking to someone makes you want to run and hide under a blanket. So I had to develop routines to like kind of pump myself up. Like when I get to work or right before a class, I got like a little routine that kind of gets me like, it's okay, breathe. They're not going to attack you.
Yeah.
Being in the Muay Thai community, I started to gain friends. It was like a routine. Um, it's almost like people just came out of nowhere, regardless if I was antisocial or had social anxiety. That's martial arts very important to me right now. Probably why I'm a coach. But it's that environment that's really kind of saved me. And one day, I just went into the ring. I never told not one coach that I was scared and I had anxiety. And I thought I'll let them down. And if I could take it back, I would tell them because I'm pretty sure they would help guide me. I probably would have performed even better than they did. But I never cared about winning or losing. It was just something to do at the point. But I can remember walking every walkout to the ring. I never looked into the crowd.
Mm.
When they raised my hand, I never looked into the crowd. I just didn't want to be seen. Never post about it on Facebook. Rarely telling my friends like, "Oh, how come you didn't tell us that you was fighting?" It's like, what's so big about it? I'm just,
Mm.
it's
Do
just
you
something
think
that
perhaps you don't want to give people the opportunity to let you down?
yeah, maybe.
Just like dad not showing up to that middle school graduation.
Yeah. I
Mm.
did tell one of my mates, well, he actually I call him my brother. They kind of adopt me in their family, not actual adoption, but that's a story that we tell everyone. We was out on Front Street one day, and it's like you gotta very politely. It was like, oh, you don't like to get close to people. And it's like I don't want to get close to people because I don't want to lose them. I
Mm.
rather just keep everyone at bay, and they seem to be there forever. It's like the closer you get, the worse people seem to treat each other, and then when you lose them, it's like the worst thing in the world. You know, that was my interpretation back then.
Yeah. And it's changed now. You've learned to let people in.
Yeah, I got a group of five. If you read a lot of books, they say you should have five people you associate with. You talk. They should all have similar goals and mindsets.
Is this a book? Sorry, that you've read that told you to do this?
This was actually in the Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, but I actually heard it from my therapist at first.
So share with us. I've never heard of it.
So the five that your group of five are people who share similar goals, similar interests. If you have a problem, like an issue, you go talk to them. You don't talk to everyone, just anyone about it. You go to this five. A lot of them, let's say finance, really big into finance, then they're all pushing to go finance. You can have your group of five. And all five are all, not all of them know each other either. Those people I tend to turn to when I just need advice. But a lot of our five conversations are less about my traumatic and drama experiences and just us having coffee, chatting, having light talks, trying to figure out how to make money during COVID, trying to figure out, a lot of stuff. So it's gotten better. And I feel like I have a lot more friends than I've ever had in my life because I more likely always have acquaintances. I mean, just like when we was walking in the park, I normally don't do that. I'm like, nah, I'm going home. Or as my fight team, if you ever hear the talking on my fight team, I hate hugs and I hate giving out hugs and I hate receiving hugs. But if they do something that I'm very proud of, I will share a hug with them. Uh, I tell them it's nothing to do with you. I don't like hugs. It's just me. It's just how I'm
Now it's
built.
COVID, so you're like, perfect.
Yeah, COVID is my round.
So if you could give your younger self advice, that you who just got stood up at middle school graduation, what would you say?
Go talk to someone. Lean on your friends. I was very scared, and I got teased quite a bit for like the part. When people start finding out that you're not, you're under financial assistance. It was very hard for me to share with my friend, even my friends, that I was struggling a lot. Didn't eat much. Bills barely getting paid. So I really poured into myself. But I think I should have just leaned on the few, like my friend who passed away, who seemingly came out of nowhere and just brightened my day. And there's nothing wrong with getting help or talking to a therapist. I have luckily had coaches in my life. Basketball coach turned into, and I had my sensei, then Muay Thai coach, boxing coach, and they inadvertently help you. They've never really asked me too much of my trauma, but they give you life lessons. So my younger self, get more active in some type of art, martial art, drawing, something, music, to keep you preoccupied rather than going home and being depressed individual.
Hmm. Okay. And what advice would you give for other adults who have childhood trauma which still impacts them today?
I would say don't be scared to embrace it and, find out a way to face everything. Because the more it goes on, the more it eats up, and the worse it gets. Even me, I'm still working on it. I mean, 30 is when I started to work on everything for real, and I still have moments where um, it comes all back. But I've learned techniques. I've learned ways to kind of deal with it. And if I have a bad day, just have a bad day and be kinder to myself. So one, be kind to yourself. Two, don't be scared. Three, try to embrace it. We're only human. You know.
Yeah. All right. Well, so much love to you. And thank you so
Love you.
much for coming on.
Thank you for the invite. I was very nervous about this.
You did so well, honestly.
Thank you.
But hopefully we can catch up post lockdown.
Yeah, exactly. When we allowed to be mixed households again.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay. Bye.
Thank you.